Good morning on a rare live stream this morning. Don't be expecting a bunch of live streams. I already went through that speech again, but I want to discuss something on here that I think is pretty pertinent. And what goes around comes around, indeed. Acting on a whim in a form of some retaliation tends to kind of work against people who do that kind of stuff. You have a lot of choices to make in life, and unfortunately, you have certain situations where, for example, we got somebody in jail. He's not loving it, and yeah, it could affect somebody else's life. That's for sure, and that can make that person awfully mad. That's goes without saying. Okay, what's the point of today's show? Think before you act. That's a point. And in my situation, I had plenty of time to think about it, and I acted upon a situation, which I don't regret at all. Not even close. Oh, I don't know. Somebody fill in the sentence with this: for every action there's an equal, and whatever else, reaction, so forth and so on. I think you know the saying. Okay. Well, that does apply. It does apply. Some things work out well for some people, and some things just do not or will not. That's a fact, son. Okay. Feeling a hell of a lot better. The marvel of antibiotics, anyway. Some things in life are better well just left alone. Some things, not all, but some things are better left alone. But everybody has the right to make their own decisions about, well, just about anything, really. But they also have to think of the consequences of doing such. That's a fact. And you got to weigh out the odds, and you got to weigh out the consequences. But that's like that in life anyway. And there's really nothing new about that. Before you take on a job, make sure that's a job that you're going to be happy with. I'll give a good example. Don't just take a job because, well, okay, you need the money, and that's understandable. You got to support yourself. And unfortunately, the best of the population has to work at a job that they don't really like, but they got to work on that anyway because they got to pay the rent and everything else, food. And so these are decisions that people make based on need, not necessarily on want. There's a difference between need and want. You see somebody walking down the street, they look like a criminal. I don't know, by appearance sake. Are you going to attack that person because they look like a criminal? No. You got to have damn reason before you're going to get into a confrontation with that person on the street who looks like a criminal. Well, looks are deceiving. Very deceiving. Can be. You got to know, you're going to play with something, make sure it's not volatile. I mean, you don't want to light a match around a a 50-gallon drum of kerosene, I would probably think that's probably not a good idea. Of course, if the person was sensible, they would know that that could be a pretty horrible situation. If the person decided to light that match, well, I would think so. You know, when we make decisions in life, we have to think about them very carefully because we make a wrong decision about something, there could be consequences. The old proverbial opening up a can of worms. Opening up a can of worms. I don't know where that statement ever came from, but we all use it. Be careful before you take the can opener and open up that can of worms. That's what I have to say. Never base your judgment of somebody based on invalid information that could come back to bite you in the ass later on. These are just words of wisdom on my show today, words of wisdom. Yeah, after this live stream, expect less than sporadic live streams on here. I'm out for business at the moment. Other words of wisdom would be measure up your assailant before you decide to approach. Measure up your assailant before you decide to take an action. Because you just don't know the results later on. You still have a little bit of that cough going. Apparently, I got to stay on my antibiotics for another 5 days. Come a hell of a way, though. Good example is you take antibiotics, which means anti-life, but you take it in some situations to save your life. Anti-life. It almost seems ambiguous in a way. You're taking something that could kill good bacteria in your body in order to get to the bad bacteria. This is a great example. You need the good bacteria. But when you try to play havoc with the bad bacteria, you're also going to hurt the good bacteria. Something to think about. Anyway, that's pretty much my show. I think examine the context of what I'm saying here, and I think you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Know your victim very well before you try to victimize. That would be my best advice.